Welcome to Performance Car Lounge, where each week we speak with enthusiasts selling their beloved performance cars. This week we discuss a genuine prototype Group A SS Commodore. Today we are featuring a VN Group A SS Commodore. And we are speaking with Rick from Obsessive Car Detailing, who's looking after the sale of the car and knows all about the car. Hi, Rick.
Hey, how you going?
Yeah, well, thank you. So can you tell us a little bit about this prototype and what makes it a prototype?
So, back in 1990, according to comply with ADR standards, two of the Group A Commodores needed to do some testing. One needed to do towing, so they needed to fit a tow bar to it, and I think it was 36,000 kilometres they had to perform. Check the suspension was all adequate, everything like that, and check the load capacity. And then the second car was basically just drivetrain because it was a new experimental drivetrain, twin throttle bodies, ZF6 speed, shortened diff. They had to do 36,000 kilometres in that car. And that car is this car, which got full compliance tags and was driven on the road with Victorian Rego.
Yeah, so
And
that
according
makes
to their
it really
documentation,
unique.
yeah, it does. And according to their documentation, the reason for being white was just ease of identification. So they knew they're the prototypes and the Durafred ones aren't.
Yeah, and what did they call that color white? I think it had
It's Alpine white, same as your VLs.
yes, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
All right. So this this started life as a prototype car. It was
yeah,
special
from day dot.
special vehicle order 257.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. The actual build sheet on it's really impressive because it goes into individual line items of because it's a special build. It's a lot more line items than any usual build.
and do you have a photo of that build sheet?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So for
Yeah.
everybody listening, if you're not watching on YouTube, I'll upload that build sheet to www.performancecarlounge.com.au along with a lot of the other photos, so you can see what this car looks like. It's truly immaculate condition and a piece of Australian motoring history. So after it's done its 36,000 kilometers of ADR development,
Yep.
I understand that Holden Motorsports manager John Lindell approached, was it
Peter
Peter
Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald?
Yeah, so Peter Fitzgerald, the year before, the first year they ever ran a Bathurst 12-hour, he won in a Toyota Supra. And I'm assuming Holden went, who won? Pick the best guy for the job kind of thing.
Yes.
He was already like a very well-established racing outfit, still is today. Um,
So that's
and
Fitzgerald Racing Services. Is that the name of
correct.
the operation?
Yeah, yes. I did speak to him about this car. He did remember it,
Yeah, okay. And
even
and
though it's still
he
100.
he worked hand in hand with Holden Motorsport, didn't he, to maintain.
So Holden Motorsport agreed to supply the engine, which was a hand-built, blueprinted HRT spec motor. I'm assuming within the race rules, they didn't stroke it or anything crazy, but they probably uh, lightened it, ported it, balanced it, blueprinted it to eke a little bit more performance out of it. And even the owner who owns this car, he at one stage had a black Group A, this white Group A, and a regular Durafred Group A. And he's always said to me, this one is significantly faster.
So that's interesting. So the VN Commodore, which was made from 1988 through to 1991, the it came with a Buick V6 or the Holden V8, and the V8 put out 165 kilowatts, as I understand it, in
Yeah,
SS
that's right.
cars.
Yep.
So the SS Group A's apparently they were still built in Elizabeth in South Australia, and then they were shipped off to Clayton, Victoria, for HSV to work on them, where
Yeah.
they got 250 kilowatts out of that engine then,
The
didn't they?
15.
But it sounds like this car might be
Got a
putting
bit more.
a bit more
Yeah.
than that. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And
And
it's
it had like a bolt-in roll cage, They did some suspension tweaks. It had like F90 Simmons three-piece with like race rubber on it. So there's quite a few changes to the car. Had bonnet pins, had a race fuel system, which unfortunately was its undoing. They must have used possibly a second hand or a previously used race bladder, and it was disintegrating and clogging the filter.
Yeah, so that was in the 1992 James Hardy 12-hour Bathurst, wasn't it?
Yeah, so from memory, the car, I've got the footage of it. It did, it was a race leader for quite a while, and then it had fueling issues, stumbling, stuff like that, and it came in 13th. And Brock, I think Brock was behind it in an Opel or something, or Astra.
Oh,
Yeah,
was it Peugeot 406?
that was it. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So even that is very like you can't say that about many cars. So this car has been a leader of the 12 hours of Bathurst, and it uh, finished ahead of a Peter Brock driven car. So
yeah,
that's very impressive.
it is a Peugeot.
Yeah. Yes. And is this car still mated to the six-speed ZF?
So while it might not be the original motor because HRT supplied one after ADR testing, it is the original gearbox, original differential.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, and this car had to be homologated in order to meet the Group A regulations. So for those people who aren't as old as me and don't know what Group A is, they were a racing category where their regulations governed many touring car series in the 80s and 90s in Australia, New Zealand, in England, and I'm sure a few other countries. So, in order to meet those homologation requirements, the cars normally had to have at least 500 road going versions. But as I understand it, there was only 302 of these cars homologated. Is that your understanding, Rick?
It is. Basically, Group A production racing came to an end in 91. Um, they changed the rules and made it just Holden and Ford because that's what the fans wanted. If you remember when Jim Richards won and they booed him on
Yeah,
the
he
podium,
called them all
yeah,
a pack of assholes.
assholes,
Yeah.
correct. Uh, uh, and I've got a different opinion on that. I always feel like Holden and Ford should have stepped up to the plate and built better cars that were competitive. Um, but instead, they changed the rules and got rid of everyone else. Um, but that's fine. But
Yeah.
within the 300 cars or 302, the two white ones are in that 302.
Yes, and I understand that the reason why they okayed 302 is that it was basically a special dispensation from CAMS because the numbers were declining in the 1991 Australian
Yes.
Touring Cars Championship, so they sort of flexed the rules a little bit to allow.
Yeah, to eke them through. Yeah, and unfortunately, from memory, they'd already bought like all the twin throttle bodies, all the six speeds. I remember during this era, what we used to buy, the company I worked for would buy bulk parts from AMCAP, who were a wholesaler of Holden parts. And yeah, Group A parts were prolific on the market at the time because they had 200 plus of spares.
Yeah, okay. The VNSS Group A wasn't all that successful in racing. I think it only had one win while it was campaigned.
Correct. That was Percy, I think.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I can't remember where that win was, but I'm sure our listeners can look into it if they're interested.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Um,
I think during its era of Group A racing, at least, the Sierras and the R32s were just dominating.
yeah, I remember Dick Johnson driving that turbo Sierra, and it
Yeah.
was an absolute weapon.
Well, you remember it won Bathurst and then it got reverted, and then Brock won because they'd found something illegal about the car after it finished.
Yeah, yeah. Um, well, I think there's a saying about motorsport rules, something along the lines of, fools follow the rules and, the intelligent people interpret the rules.
That's right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all about the grey areas. It's all about pushing that boundary of what's not written yet. So you do something that is borderline, and then they have to make a rule after they find out what you've done.
Yes. Yeah. So looking at the engine of this car, a bit of a interesting nugget of information is that this is probably the first HRT or Holden Racing Team optimized road car. Uh, it,
Yeah, yeah. In a twisted way, that's what I'd say about the car. It's because I can't imagine any other car that was ever touched by a Holden Racing Team that was a registered car. I think they only started the optimization program in late VRs,
yeah,
and it was I think from memory it was about $10,000 to blueprint to 215 motor
yes,
uh, to a quoted 230 kilowatt, which some people would say $10,000 for a 15 kilowatt increase was crazy. But I think subsequently people had dynoed those cars and they ranged anywhere from kind of 255 to 260 at the wheels, which is roughly in a Commodore what it is at the flywheel. So they were more power than quoted, and that was probably an ADR dodge at the time to quote them so low, but
yeah.
then would make them a bit hard to publicly sell, saying we're only giving you 15 kilowatt for 10 grand.
I do remember reading articles in Wheels magazine and Motor magazine at the time, about those VRs, and there was the VS GTSR
Yeah,
HRT as well, and the journalist saying it was a lot of money, uh,
yeah. I
for
think roughly a third of the GDSR's got HRT option, and now that 10 grand is almost 50 grand if you've got the option.
yes, yeah, and in hindsight, it was a great buy given the value of those HRT optimized cars today.
Absolutely.
Good investment. And another interesting nugget of information about this car is the Biante model company actually
Yes.
used this car as the model they did the 1 is to 18
Yeah. Yeah. So
scale.
this car and the Tui's 2000 V8 were both looked at because they were both together at the time. And then, yeah, the entirety of the prototype car was based on this car.
And as a result of this, Biante then gifted the
Yeah, so the car comes with a prototype of the prototype.
yes,
so,
yeah,
so it's a prototype model, yeah, like a pre-production model. Yeah,
yeah. That's fascinating, and just adds it to a bit more interest in this car.
yeah, yeah. Actually, during that period, it got sent to me. The owner was like, "Hey, I might as well just send this straight to you because I had the car at the time." So yeah, they rocked up in the mail. I'm like, "Oh, this is really cool."
Yeah. And so since when it finished racing, what was the life of the car like then? How was the car owned and driven from that time on?
So the Strathfield Racing Team picked up the car. Um, I'm assuming that's through kind of the motorsport ties. Obviously, the car was set up for racing. Strathfield race team had picked it up at the time. Wayne Gardner was driving for them, and they painted the car red and essentially cloned their race car. And it was quite common at the time for the larger teams to have a mock car that looked like their race car sitting out the front of their pit stalls,
Yes.
so the people could have a look, take photos with them, and stuff like that. So the car was relegated to those duties for a while, and then at some point, a Strathfield store owner picked up the car after it finished with the Strathfield racing team, and they turned it into a essentially a show car for car audio.
Yeah, okay, okay. So I do remember that red Strathfield livery very well. And
Yeah,
again, another um, nod to the interesting provenance of this car. It's been driven by Wayne Gardner, another legend of motorsport
Captain
in
Chaos.
Australia and internationally.
Yeah, Yeah, yeah,
And this wasn't just a car that was a stock car that was just prettied up to look like a race car. It is actually a race car, and then later in life, it was used in many tarmac rallies, I understand.
yeah. So Strathfield used to sponsor and host a lot of rallies around Victoria and Sydney. So the car would be the flagship car for those rallies, compete in them. I got an extensive kind of group of photos of all these rallies, and even VHSs that it's on the cover of for tarmac rallies that were on at the time.
Yeah. And just a reminder that I will have all of these photos up on the performancecarlounge.com.au website. So if you are interested in learning more about this car, head over to the website and we'll have all the photos featured there and a bit of the history of the car as well. So, Rick, what has recently been done to refurbish the car in recent years?
So when I got the car, which was about 3 years ago, um, it had just been in storage. I think it was started occasionally. It was regularly serviced. He did keep on top of um, the time period servicing. Obviously, the kilometres it wasn't getting there, but it was a Commodore Service Centre here in WA. A friend of mine, Jason, owns that. That's kind of how I found out about this car in a weird way, why I got to work on it.
Yes.
Um, but essentially, the servicing on it was always top notch. But aesthetically, no one had taken great care of it. It probably had never been fully put back to how it should be, and it was always a questionable thing with this car. Is it's had so many disguises. It's been a white pilot car, a blue and white race car, a red race car, and then the current owner purchased it back to white again. But it wasn't completely there. There was just some loose ends. The car audio side was a bit of a mess, as you would imagine, having it being an ex-Strathfield car.
Yeah.
So we kind of nutted out a plan on what direction we wanted to go, and the idea was let's get it back to pilot spec with a little tiny bit of race flavour.
And what is that race flavor?
So the exhaust, we went with two. It's got a factory system that we've basically cloned one of the low kilometre black Group A's that we've got here. We cloned that system and just made a little newer, better version. And then we made a side pipe exhaust, which the car had. You could see it underneath where they'd kind of flattened the sill to get the side pipe out, and all the photos you can see it on. So essentially, currently that's fitted, and it's quite grumbly.
That would be bloody loud, I'd imagine. I reckon it must sound just
It
awesome.
sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Um,
actually not as crazy loud as you'd think. You'd think side pipe, no cat, one muffler. This is going to be the end of the world. It's actually not terrible. It's got a thump to it, but it's not ear shattering.
yeah. So in its current guise, a prospective owner might be looking to use it as a tarmac rally car or a track car of some sort, and
Yeah,
or maybe even just something for a collection because this is something that I imagine is going to continue to appreciate in value given its history and provenance and um, scarcity. But if
yeah,
someone wanted to drive it on the street, could they change the exhaust system to the
yeah. I
same?
mean, it comes with both. The second exhaust is literally brand new, and it's got coloured converter with it. The only other thing you would probably need to do is change the tyres. It does have Dunlop uh, treaded race tyres where they're virtually just a tiny little squiggle. So they're not, I don't think they're DOT approved, but that's about it. The car is, other than that, perfectly passable for an inspection.
Sure. So, what's the interior like in the car? Is it a stripped out race car still, or have um,
No, no, it's basically complete. I mean, it's all Group A and it's all how it should be. The car, when I received it, was 90% there. It only had a couple of loose ends. Um, I believe at some point the car had a Momo course wheel, maybe when it was a race car. So it's got the four-spoke Ghibli back on it. It's got the correct gear knob, cassette player, speakers. So it's basically 100% OE now.
Right. That just makes it even more special. So
Yeah.
while we're talking about, you've obviously done some of this work. Can you tell us a bit about your business? So you have a business called OCD card. It's obsessive card detailing based in
Yeah.
Perth. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I am a detailer as far as I do the kind of normal stuff that detailers do, but I also do restoration. Um, so, and I project manage. So if someone gives me commonly I work on HSVs and Porsches. They're my two kind of specialties. I do work on anything, and I've worked on Volvos and Ferraris and Lambos and things that I wouldn't normally know much about, but I've done them anyway. But the HSVs and the Porsches I do know a lot about, and essentially, yeah, people trust me with them. If they've got any kind of issues with them or parts need fitting or need advice on what direction to go, I provide that and project manage for them and get their cars where they want to get them. So basically, I just offer all the services of all the people I know, all the other tradesmen I know, and all the kind of skill set that I can bring to it. And I do some off the wall things. I do metal fabrication. I actually am self-taught welder and fabricator. So I've done rust repairs on customers' cars before and stuff like that. And I do paint as well. So yeah, I take on selective projects for customers that I already know most of the time. I've kind of got a pretty closed off client base. I've been around for 12 years and I've got a lot of repeat clients. So yeah,
Yeah, look,
that's my goal.
you clearly know your stuff and are a specialist in the field. And I've had a look at your website, and some of the cars that feature on that website are just stunning. So it's no doubt that people see you as a destination to help them bring their rare and valuable cars back to uh, their former glory, or whatever their vision is for it. I imagine some people have
Yeah,
come to you with a vision for a car, and you help them bring it to life.
I try. I try. It's yeah. Every car's different. Every customer's different. Sometimes we do these things in installments where we concentrate on fixing one area of the car and basically so the owner can continue to enjoy the car, not pull it off the road for 12 months. Um, and during the course of this, I've got to work on when it comes to Group A's. I'm pretty sure I've touched all the rarest ones, apart from maybe Nick Manel's white pilot car. But other than that, I've worked on both the Tui's cars.
Right. The Group A VNSS was one of the hero cars of my childhood. A product. I grew up through the 90s, and I think 1991 was one of the best years, certainly in music. I remember Guns N' Roses released the Use Your Illusion albums. There was the Metallica Black Album, Nirvana, Nevermind. So much good music and so many good memories
Yeah.
of that era. And this car fits into that. I
Yes.
I purchased a VN SS, not an SS, an S Pack Commodore when I could afford it, because I could never afford an SS Group A. It
You and me both.
Yeah, yeah. It was nowhere near as impressive as this car, by the sound of it. So this certainly does represent an opportunity for somebody to buy a car that's appreciating in value, but come is a throwback to that era, that so many of us remember so fondly.
Yeah, I like this car because let's say you're a collector, got it in the shed, and you show someone this car, you can talk their ear off for an hour plus on just the crazy history of this car. And I witness it because I've been custodian of this car for a while. And people will walk in and go, what's that? Because it's white and it shouldn't be. but it looks genuine. It doesn't look like a mock, because it's all genuine parts, all genuine body kit. It's got the wheels, it's got the decals even. People don't automatically assume it's a mock. They're like, what is it? And then when I explain to them and just give them a couple of teasers like, oh, it's an ex-pilot race car with a HRT motor for the engine, for the road. And they're just like, huh? They just want to know more. Like, what? What is this? And ultimately, everyone just goes, that's so cool. That car's got a hell of a story. It's really interesting.
It sure does, and it could continue on. The future owner of this car could choose to wrap it in any of the race liveries of back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, absolutely. You
Um,
can do a printed wrap where you don't have to hurt the paint. You don't have to repaint the thing. You can do a printed wrap and do it in the Bathurst spec or the Strathfield spec or a new one and go out racing again.
yeah, and I think it even raced at an IndyCar event, probably on the Gold Coast. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Believe
Yeah,
so. Yes. Yeah,
yeah,
I've got some posters to that effect.
and that's another unique thing to actually own a car, not like the one that was in the posters, but is actually the car in the
Yeah,
posters and videos is
yeah,
just another really special and unique thing.
yeah. You're right. And that would be one thing that made this car special. But being the pilot car, over and above that, and then it has a whole nother life in the Strathfield era where people remember it from going to car shows and having a huge thumping stereo in it.
Yes, I think we all went through that phase of buying a
Some of
car.
it's still in it.
Yeah, yeah. So there is a lot of interesting memorabilia that comes with the car. We've spoken about the Beyonce model,
Yeah.
but what else also comes with the car?
A lot of quirky little pieces from that year at the 12 hour. So t-shirts, pit passes, all the paperwork for the car. So all the original sign-in forms and the printout of every lap time in its position. So all the everything relating to the race itself, it comes with it. And it even comes with a set of overalls from the pit crew that Greg Murphy wore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, while he was working for Fitzgerald Racing at the time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Well, he's a Kiwi, but he's certainly a legend of Australian motorsport as well.
most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a car that comes with a really unique and special provenance. It is a cornerstone of Australian motorsport history, as well as the development of Australian performance cars. It comes fully restored by somebody who absolutely knows their stuff and has brought this car back to its full glory and comes with all of the memorabilia and documentation to prove and support its fascinating provenance. So, given all of that, how much is the owner of this car asking?
The current asking price is, I believe, 230.
Yeah, okay. To me, that seems like very good value for something that,
I I think so too. I feel like I've sold quite a few Group A's for customers, regular Group A's, Durafreds, and I just feel this car is so much more interesting than a regular red Group A. Um, and I feel that there should be quite a bit inherent value on the fact that of its history. I think it all adds to it, um, but we need the market to realise what this car is and how important it is.
oh, 100%. And the fascinating thing for me is this car could easily sit in a automotive museum somewhere with all of that memorabilia and paraphernalia and the story and be, you know, a fascinating exhibit. But by the same token, that would seem a shame. I'd love to see this car thundering around a racetrack again somewhere.
Oh, you and me both, but unfortunately, that is the destiny for a lot of these cars now, especially when Holden closed. Like so many people just put it in the shed and they do nothing now. And it is sad.
Yeah, and that's another good point, is there's no more Holden. They're not making any more of these. They're only getting rarer and more special. So if you are interested in this car, genuinely interested, head to the performancecarlounge.com.au website. We'll have a full rundown on the car and a link to the ad. And when you click on the link to the ad, you'll be able to get in touch with Rick. Rick is a very busy person, so please only contact him if you're genuinely interested in the car. But I think this is a very exciting car and hugely unique. And whoever does purchase this car, I think it's not only going to provide them with a lot of enjoyment and fun, but it'll probably keep going up in value as well over the years.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time on the Performance Car Lounge podcast. Really enjoyed chatting with you, Rick, and I'm sure we'll chat one day again when you have another car that is looking for a new home.
That's about a week away.
Well, I look forward to chatting with you then.
No worries. Too easy. Thank you very much, Stuart. I appreciate your time.
No worries, Rick. Thank you. Thanks for joining us at Performance Car Lounge. If you have a performance car with an interesting story that you are selling, contact us at performancecarlounge.com.au.